What's good out there, Liquid Trucking? Welcome into the Liquid Trucking Podcast. I am your host, Marcus. Thank you so much for joining us for the show today. Very excited about today's show, as I always am. Are you guys kind of waiting for the day that I come on here and I'm like, God, I'm so bored with today's topic? It'll never happen. Or if I do ever do that to you, it'll probably be like an April Fool's joke or something like that. But you know, I get excited. I love my job, man. I like talking to truck drivers. I like talking to industry experts. I like learning about the industry and finding out things that I didn't know. And today's episode is all sorts of that. Very excited to be joined by, of course, my honorary co-host, Jason Eisenman from Liquid Trucking will be on this call, and we will be joined by Terry Reinert, who is the CEO of Fleet Defender. Now, if you're not familiar with Fleet Defender, really cool company. If you go to their website, it says right at the top, cyber defense and safety for fleet vehicles. And it goes so much deeper than that. It's wild the amount of things that Fleet Defender offers, and it's all software-based. It's crazy. Like this, for instance, they can detect and neutralize cyber threats targeting your fleet vehicles in real time, eliminate reliance on outdated security measures and fragmented monitoring tools, gain complete visibility and control with advanced in-vehicle cyber defense, allowing you to filter and prioritize threats with precision. 24/7 monitoring, it's crazy. Fleet Defender is like a kind of, you have to think about it in the cybersecurity world as cutting-edge technology. You really do. And we're lucky enough to talk to the CEO of Fleet Defender today. Terry has a pretty crazy background in military and government work for like Department of Justice and things like that. He is a high-level cybersecurity expert, and he's going to come on this show today and talk to us about not only Fleet Defender, but I'm going to ask him about the threats that we face as not only the transportation industry, but as a nation, as a person, just logging on to Facebook and looking for your next favorite meme. It is jam-packed with all sorts of information. It's a fast-moving interview. It's a fun one, and I learned so much, you guys. I can't tell you how much anticipation I have for you guys to hear this interview. So I'm going to get to it here in just a moment. My interview with Jason Eisenman from Liquid and Terry Reinert from Fleet Defender. That's the CEO. Real quick, gotta remind you about our lovely website, podcast.liquidtrucking.com. It's our home for all things podcast. And recently we realized that some of our links were a little bit messed up. Look, suffice it to say, all of a sudden, not as many of you guys were listening to the podcast, and it coincided with the relaunch of the website. We think we've got all that stuff figured out now, but we want to make sure to get you guys to where you need to be. So if you're listening to this right now and you're going, damn it, the link that I clicked didn't work, do me a favor. Go to podcast.liquidtrucking.com and just bookmark that bad boy. Whether it's on your phone, you send it to yourself in a text. If you've got a laptop, bookmark it on your browser. But if you go there every Wednesday and you click podcast.liquidtrucking.com, lo and behold, that latest episode is going to be right up there at the top of the page for you. So if you've had some trouble as of late, don't give up on us. It was a slight bit of technical difficulties, a little hiccup is all I would call it. We're smoothing things out. My guy Tyler, the guy that's responsible for building version 1 and 2 of the Liquid Trucking Podcast website, is Johnny on the spot with this stuff. In fact, I'd like to change the saying to Tyler on the spot, because anything that goes to that guy's inbox gets done, and it gets done right. So we're working on it. We think we've got it all figured out. If you are having trouble still, and maybe we don't know about the trouble you're having, so it's important that you send us an email, podcast@liquidtrucking.com, or get in touch with your dispatcher, have them get in touch with me. If you have my number, call me directly. However you want to do it, just let us know, because we want to make sure that all that stuff is there so you guys have no trouble whatsoever finding the podcast. And if you still are slacking and haven't been over to V2 of the podcast website, once again, podcast.liquidtrucking.com, and you notice how I'm saying it a little bit slow. That's because I was typing it at the same time, and I cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. It's amazing, guys. So scrolling from the top down, we have all sorts of good stuff. There's merch up there. You can get Liquid Trucking merch. We got the leaderboard. Now, obviously, I'm looking at this a couple weeks before you will hear this episode, but let's go ahead and give them some party horns because they're on it. Matthew Langford, 233,400 points on our Deliver Recon leaderboard. We've also got Matthew McKellar with 222,400. How about a round of applause for Matthew McKellar? Matt Cleach, 198,500 points, coming in the bronze area of third place. That's a party horn. And then to round out the top five, at number 4, Michael Conroy. At number 5, Quincy Rich. At number 6, Joseph Hutchison. At number 7, Thomas Harris. At number 8, Javinton Pasley. Number 9, Tony Brown. And number 10, Tim Spencer. You know one thing I notice about this leaderboard? It's littered with dudes that listen and participate in the Liquid Trucking podcast. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to do that to make the leaderboard. It just means that, some of the best drivers out there, some of the ones that are swinging for the fences, are guys that enjoy coming on the podcast, and I couldn't thank them enough for it. So go check the leaderboard there. Also, we've got an Enter to Win photo contest right now. Show off your rig, your road companions, or the breathtaking views from your route. Submit your best photos. It's all right there at podcast.liquidtrucking.com. And if you're just feeling like it and you want to see one of the dumbest pictures of me that I think has ever been taken, scroll all the way down to the bottom where you can see the little bio that is there, where they'll tell you a little bit about me, myself, and I, who I am, where I come from, with a picture that looks like I'm holding in a fart. But listen, I don't make those decisions. I put that in the hands of the designers. They pick out the ones that they think are good. We send them 7,000 pictures of me. They find 6 that they can work with, and the hold in the fart one was one of them this time. So if you want to check out that picture of me, go check it out, podcast.liquidtrucking.com, and be sure to check out all of the other cool stuff up on the website as well. Okay, I want to get right into this interview now. I say right into it. I've been talking for 7.5 minutes, but I want to get into it now. It's a great interview. Once again, Jason Eisenman and Terry Reinert from Fleet Defender right now on the Liquid Trucking Podcast. Welcome back into the Liquid Trucking Podcast. Very excited to be joined by my next guests. First and foremost, you know him great. He is the VP of HR and Safety for Liquid Trucking. We've got Jason Eisenman here. Jason, thanks for being here, man, and thanks for setting us up with this interview. You've been really knocking them dead lately, just getting us these awesome people to talk to. This one's no different.
Yeah, good to be back. Can't wait to hear what Terry's got to say.
Yes, and now joining us, he is the CEO of Fleet Defender. FleetDefender.com is the website. They do cyber defense and safety for fleet vehicles. Please welcome to the show from Fleet Defender, Terry Reinert. Terry, thank you so much for being here today. It's a pleasure to have you on the Liquid Trucking Podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus and Jason, both for having me on. I think this is going to be a fun conversation.
It really is, and we were talking a bit off the air about kind of how we were going to start it and what questions we were going to ask, and I'll tell you, the easiest way to do this is to say, Terry, let's start with your background. I know it's important in what you're doing today, so tell me the story about your military service and how it led you to being the CEO of Fleet Defender.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of a multi-stage story, you know, like all stories are, right? And then it all kind of started when I was 5 years old. My dad brought home a Commodore 64 and I started playing with it, and I learned I could write these letters on the screen and make the computer do what I want. And I mean, immediately hooked on computer programming, computer science. And then as I kind of like grew up through my teenage years, you know, obviously all kids get into video games. But for me, it was taking them apart, reverse engineering them, figuring out how I could exploit them to make them do something different, modify the game in some way. And the interesting thing is a lot of the things that we were doing in video game modding and hacking directly relate to cyber warfare. Whether you're, pulling software out of, some weapon system, reverse engineering it, finding bugs and writing exploits for it, or a video game, like the techniques are very, very similar.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, some targets are very harder than others, but those skills like really apply to, kind of that whole sphere. So, I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school, spent about 8 years in the Marine Corps. And that's what really kind of layered that drive to, that national security focus to like serve something bigger than yourself and defend the nation kind of a thing. And so, getting out of the Marine Corps coupled both together and got into, the kind of the full spectrum cyber warfare world. Working on, DoD projects and furthering national security. So through that work, that's where, looking at the offensive side of, cyber warfare and understanding what you can do as an attacker kind of led us into this space where we found there was a massive threat against our logistics and supply chain from foreign adversaries. And so we actually set out to build a defense system to stop people from doing what we were able to do from an attacker standpoint.
That's so cool. This is not the first time that I've heard of a story of somebody that has the ability to be on the offensive side of the cyber hacking world, going to the defensive side and trying to help out and defend against things that they know. And you also touched on something interesting here. I saw what I think was a video of a drone pilot flying a drone, and I swear to God, the controller that he was using looked like an Xbox controller to me. So I find the interesting similarities and the different points where gaming and the military kind of interwoven, and even so in your life. Like, I don't know if you and I would have been friends because you'd have taken my Nintendo 64 apart, but I think you probably learned a lot of really cool stuff during that point in your life when you were that curious.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and that's what really I think makes a really good engineer and a really good hacker is just that curiosity. Just not afraid to take something apart, not afraid to break it, but just committed to I'm going to figure this out. And to do that, you really have to have that inner drive, that vision and mission of like I'm going to modify this and I'm going to make something new. And then like nothing gets in your way. And I mean, honestly, that's when we're looking for talent and hiring, cyber, security engineers and hackers, like that's what we're really looking for is the people who it is what they do. Like it is their hobby, it is their job, it is their motivation, their drive to get up every day, just that inner like need to figure it out.
It's so cool, man. And can you touch on, you mentioned some of the threats against the transportation industry from foreign adversaries. Can you, be specific about some of those? Are there anything that you could kind of talk about that maybe Fleet Defender actively works against, or just some things that you found out through your government work that we're up against here?
Yeah, and we can talk about some of it a little more general and then others, more specific. But working with the Secret Service, the FBI, commercial industry, the DoD, we've really kind of bucket threat actors against like logistics and supply chain and vehicles into three kind of big buckets, right? The first one's the easy one. It's just somebody who's curious. It's the hacker down the street, just somebody curious that's, a lot of people I've found, like vehicle modding where they do the ECU mods to make their engine rev higher for like race cars and stuff like that.
Yep.
So just, not malicious. Usually not malicious. Sometimes it can go into the malicious realm, but they're just the curious tinkers that are really trying to like figure it out and do something to their own vehicles. And then the next one would be organized crime, right? Like we know cargo theft is a massive thing, and the smarter they can get about how they commit their crime, the more able they're able to, or the higher their ability to evade law enforcement. And not spend a lot of money on human capital, right? Like the days of sitting outside of a port with a pair of binoculars or buying, paying off somebody in the port to tell you what truck a certain cargo is loaded on. and then following them for 300 miles, waiting for the driver to have to use the bathroom so they can interdict the truck. They can just hack into the telematics unit, look at the load manifest, and then they'll know exactly what truck they want. And
Wow.
by the way, it's got GPS and they can track it. They can see
Yeah.
the navigation and the routing. They can see everything about it. And then even on the more advanced side, and I think where they're going with it too, is you can actually change the navigation so the driver drives down the street you want them to. And so
Wow.
it sounds like crazy James Bond stuff, but like this is really emerging right now. Like this stuff is really actually starting to happen, and they're really looking at this stuff. And then so that's organized crime. And you can throw like ransomware in that too, like, people ransomware hospitals and medical devices. Vehicles are coming. There's already been, some interesting signals coming out where people are exploiting infotainment units and installing ransomware. So pretty soon your car is going to get ransomware too. That's going to be a scary world.
I mean, if they
Um,
can get to international airports, I feel like they can get to almost anything.
yeah.
And just within the last, I think, 6 months or a year, it happened at SeaTac Airport where they had a huge ransomware thing and they paid out, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, there's really nothing else they can do unless they've got somebody like you on the team, right?
Well, here's the scary thing. I mean, think about it from like a medical device standpoint, and vehicles are the same way. Once someone has been inside the system and installed ransomware, even if you pay the ransom and get it back, are you going to trust your vehicle with your life?
No,
No way. Because
absolutely
like
not.
we have cases where we worked with hospitals where MRI machines got, ransomware. They could never get certification to use it on a patient again.
Wow.
Because even though like they reset the entire system, who knows what was left behind and if it's going to operate the way that it's supposed to. And so same thing with a vehicle. Like, would you really trust it after somebody's hacked it and installed stuff? No way. Like I wouldn't. And
Absolutely not.
yeah, that's the scary part. And then the third one, I promised three. The third one is the nation state, right? That's the scarier one. And if you look at like Russia and the Russian and Ukraine war, Russia has been really attacking the supply chain because they're trying to slow the flow of Western aid into the Ukraine.
Mhm.
And so, like, that's kind of the nation state actor piece. You've got all this research coming out of foreign universities that we know are tied to foreign militaries looking at vulnerabilities in vehicles and what you can do with them once you've exploited them. So all the signs are there. And so, that's what kind of led us down this path of we need to do something about this. Like this can't just continue to exist as a problem. And a lot of the existing, players that were working on cybersecurity for vehicles, while what they're doing is important, it wasn't comprehensive. Like it wasn't, you got to layer all your defense. We call it defense in depth, right? Like you want different layers. Because in cybersecurity, you never say if we're going to get hacked, it's when we're going to get hacked. And so you have to assume that each layer of your defenses is going to be compromised. And so, how do you architect a system and security controls in such a way that when that happens, what the attacker can do is minimized? And then there's other layers, protecting, the core of your system. So they actually have to get through many different layers of security controls. And by then, hopefully, you've detected it and got them out of your system and fixed the problem.
Man, it's so like the world is so small now. Everything is so connected. And what you said there is just so poignant to me. It's not if, it's when. And you feel that just from a personal standpoint, it's like, when am I going to click the wrong thing on Facebook and they're going to have everything that's ever touched my computer? It's something that we deal with every single day. And it's very relatable, not only from a personal standpoint, but from a business standpoint. And Jason, you've been awful quiet and patient over there, man. But I do want to clear the path for you a little bit to see if any of this stuff that Terry's been telling us has sparked up any questions in your mind.
Always lots of questions, and I absolutely love what they're doing. We had the opportunity to meet with Terry's team, and believe it or not, just a little background to all of our listeners and drivers. Uh, Fleet Defender is based right here in the Omaha area. We met at a building that I'm not sure if they still operate out of the same building in Springfield, but um, 20 minutes down the road from the Liquid Trucking headquarters is Fleet Defender. And so it's a local company, and we got to meet with Werner Enterprises and Fleet Defender in their office, and they demoed some stuff, and we talked big picture, real world, a lot like what Terry's talking about today. And I thought it was important to bring that up is, it's really cool what you can find in your own backyard sometimes in such a small but yet huge world. As you mentioned, the world seems so small now, but take liquid trucking, 225 trucks, 300 employees, and then take a Werner of the world, thousands of trucks, thousands of employees. If a cyber attacker could cripple a good portion of a fleet the size of Werner or any of Werner's large competitors that we're all familiar with, like your Swifts of the world, that could interrupt supply chains on the shelves where we're all purchasing goods. And then, on a smaller scale, we're transporting extremely hazardous materials, things that you don't want to get in the wrong hands. We have a fleet of 400 tanker trailers that pull products you wouldn't want to fall in the wrong hands, just to keep it simple. And that's what, when we got to meet with Terry and their team on several occasions, that's what I think their end goal is. You're not only protecting the nation, but, probably working with OEMs, manufacturers of Class 8 equipment, and then fleets of all sizes, that have a variety of needs that need to be protected at some point.
Absolutely. And I remember you telling me that demo was pretty eye-opening. You saw some pretty cool things during that, yes?
Yeah, and I don't know, Terry, you'll have to tell me a little bit more, but you had I can't remember the model of car, but this car that you had in the shop there was a full-size car that you could purchase at a dealership, and somebody probably drove it full time, but you guys were treating it like a toy, and you could control just about every part of it from a computer or a laptop. And I thought that was really intriguing because in my mind, boy, what if the wrong person, knew about any large tanker fleet with a large quantity of something on it and could control the direction of it, and use it as a weapon in America. Those are thoughts. Those are why we plan what we do. That's why we have, hazmat plans and training and all kinds of, not only training that we do to suffice, like FMSMA and the DOT and the FMCSA, but beyond that, the things that you have to do to be a good company, studious to your customers and their freight and all the people working for you, and all the heightened training that we do. Things like this play into that. And I think that, Terry would probably agree that there's a lot out there on the roadway every day in a Class 8 truck moving America, as they say, that's pretty fragile. If you took too many of the cards out of the house, it could fall.
Well, that's a really good point you make because, from an attacker perspective, I don't have to attack every single truck on the road and stop it. All I have to do is attack enough of them that at some point, the US government is going to say, we have to stop all the trucks because the threat is too large.
Right.
And so all I have to do is basically just put the idea in the public's mind that this is not safe and that it shouldn't be happening and we can't trust it. And then it's all going to come grinding to a halt. And when that happens, you guys know the statistics because you're in logistics, right? Your society is 9 meals away from going, primal. We've seen it after multiple different, weather events and severe, weather events and things where when people don't eat for 3 days, what they're willing to do is a little crazy. Society starts to break down, rule of law disappears pretty much, right around that point. And so we have to keep the wheels moving. We have to keep food on the shelf so people have access to food so they can eat. And without it, we don't have rule of law. We don't have a society. We just have absolute chaos.
It's scary when you break it down like that. I don't even know where my 9th meal from right now is going to come from. I cook most of the meals in the house. 9 out of 10 of them, I'm the one with my hands in it. I couldn't tell you what I'm going to eat 3 dinners from now. And that's kind of terrifying to know that between now and then, I could go almost feral just trying to find my family food. So it really does bring some perspective to it. And also, anytime that we can offer a little bit of perspective for how much our truck drivers out there on our American highways actually do for this country. I want to make room for it on this podcast for sure. It it really is like, it's a little bit unsettling, but at the same time, I've got guys like you that are on the job. And so I also feel like we're in a very good place right now, as far as at least we're being proactive about it. But are my thoughts on that misguided at all, Terry? Should I be scared? Should I be at least a little nervous? Or knowing that we've got guys like you and Fleet Defender working against this fight, I feel confident. That's all I'm going to say. So tell me if I'm wrong there.
I wouldn't say you're wrong. It's a matter of there's a lot of people working on this problem from a lot of different perspectives. So you've got companies that are training engineers to write better software. You've got companies that have automated tools that look at the code base and the source code and try to find bugs in the code before, so they can fix them before it goes into production. And then you've got Fleet Defender. We come at it from the other side, right? So we're real-time detection. So Jason, one of the things that's really changed since we last talked, we are now software only. So our application, we've got an in-vehicle AI agent. So, AI is the big buzz, so I hate using buzzwords, but like this is a very smart, intelligent agent that we've deployed out into the telematics systems that are in vehicles. And it monitors everything going through that telematics box. And it also monitors everything that's happening on the vehicle networks. So that way we can identify when connections to the vehicle are happening that shouldn't be happening, like anything anomalous. And hey, maybe we miss it, right? So then we're looking at resource usage on the processor to see, is there malware already in the system doing things that it shouldn't be doing? All the way down to watching network traffic on the actual vehicle networks to say, wow, they made it through multiple layers of protections, or they came in from a different attack vector outside of the telematics, and they're doing something on the bus. So we try to catch it at like every single stage, and we're software only now. So like you don't have to buy hardware, you don't have to go stick it in your trucks, you don't have to track it, change it, and all that. We've pivoted fully over. And then Marcus, to your point, we have a vehicle security operations center that's running 24/7. So every single fleet that we work with and every single vehicle that our software is on, we monitor that 24/7. And then we have a playbook that has multiple tiers of incident response. So that way, whether it's an insider threat, so, like a driver connecting something to the vehicle they shouldn't, or connecting the vehicle to a Wi-Fi hotspot that they shouldn't because it's exposing the risk, we can detect that, we can stop it, and we can make sure nothing nefarious happens while that's occurring. And then we can help, the fleets coach their drivers on, hey, maybe don't connect the vehicle to a Love's hotspot, like not secure, all the way to those external threats. And we've actually started seeing them and tracking them. And now law enforcement's starting to get involved where there's things occurring to the vehicles that's not driver related. So it's external to the vehicle, that's causing degradation of vehicle systems. And so that is now all wrapped into our platform, and we're tracking that, categorizing it, and generating signatures for that so we can make sure it doesn't happen to any fleet that we work with.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And so, like, hypothetically, what if somebody that the driver didn't want connected to his Wi-Fi? Let's see, he's parked in the truck, he's self-contained, he's got his Wi-Fi on, and he's streaming, and somebody a couple trucks down finds their way, weasels their way into that network. Your guys' threat detection is gonna pick up on that. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that's something that we'll see. So we monitor every connection to the vehicle, whether it's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cellular, anything going through the telematics box. Now, there's some other attack vectors that we're working on, like, for example, the engine ECU. Some of them have cellular modems in them, so that way those manufacturers can monitor the engine remotely. So if that's an attack vector, but we're not necessarily sitting there yet. Right now, we're working with the telematics partners and companies. So like the Platform Science, Samsara, Motive, Geotab, CalAmp, those types. But yes, in the example that you provided, we would see that an unauthorized connection attempt is occurring to the vehicle, and we would say no.
Very
can't
cool.
do it.
That's so cool. And 24/7 monitoring too. You're always protected. I love it. Talk to me a little bit about some of the strategic partnerships. The one I kind of want to focus in on is the collaboration with Werner. Jason's already talked about it. That is a gigantic company. You guys are in business together. How did that whole thing come to pass, and what's it done for both Fleet Defender and Werner as you guys have moved forward in this partnership?
Well, it's really interesting. I would say Warner, everybody thinks of Warner like a trucking company. I think of them as a technology company. They have, over the last 5, 6 years, they've really transformed all their operations. And they've completely embraced technology, and it's all led by Dara, their CIO. And I mean, it's amazing, like the systems that they have in place and what they're doing. And when I first met Dara, we were introduced by a mutual friend, and he came in, and Jason, it was an Audi A6. By the way, that
Okay.
was one of them. I now have actually a Freightliner Cascadia sitting outside, which is ours. So we've grown up a little bit, much larger
I
than
like
Audi. but but yeah, so he came in, saw the demo, and when we got to talking, they were already aware of the threat, which was awesome, right? Because they are very proactive on the safety and the cybersecurity side. They put a lot of effort into those areas. And so they already kind of knew about the threat to the vehicles, and they were looking for a solution and couldn't find one, because there was really nothing out there yet. And so when we, briefed them and showed him what we were doing, he immediately like locked onto it and said, "We need this across our entire fleet. How do we get it?" And then they've been amazing partners ever since. That was a couple of years ago. We're fully embedded with their safety and cyber teams. And they've helped us like steer the product and what's going to work in the commercial market. How do we get this into the vehicles to where it's not going to impact the driver, and the driver's not going to hate it. And in fact, the driver doesn't even know we're there. That's the beautiful part about
That's
it.
great.
They can just go do what they do, and they don't have to think about it. And
That's
that's the
so cool.
beautiful thing.
That's so cool. Listen, we talk to a lot of drivers on this show, and I think Jason would agree that, another bell, another whistle, another ding, another button, there's a lot of them in truck cabs these days, and the drivers sometimes feel a little overwhelmed. So I got to say, just from what I know that the drivers like, that's probably the coolest thing the drivers will hear on this right now. I mean, aside from all of it, that just operates without them having to deal with it. I think that's really cool. Jason, I don't know if you want to chime in at all on that, but, it seems like something the drivers would be really excited about.
Yes, anytime you can not have the truck ding again, and Terry mentioned the term AI, and that's a real term, and I have to remind people of that. As we have more systems in the trucks and more cameras and more everything, it's like, hey guys, remember, it does stand for artificial intelligence. There is a lot going on in technology. It's going to benefit the industry. There's going to be a lot of pros. There's going to be a lot of cons, and the pros and cons change. They ebb and flow, right, depending on what side of the table you're at. Because trucking or any business, it's like a baseball team. You got to have a player at every position, and the experience is going to be different at every position. The struggles and the wins. So the same thing in trucking. What we're doing today and what we do next week and next year and 5 years and 10 years is all shaping up by all the work that's getting done today. And I think that trucking and technology is nowhere close to where it's going to be, but we're on a pretty cool journey, I think, of where it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I kind of want to steer it in that direction a little bit, Terry. You talked about, things that you're working on. What's in store? Anything on the horizon for Fleet Defender here that you're really excited about that you can talk about? Of course, I'm not trying to give up state secrets here, but I'm so interested to know what you guys are working on and what's next for your realm here.
Yeah, our 10-year vision is deep sea to deep space and everything in between.
That's
Right. So
awesome.
that's kind of where we're going with it. Right now, we're expanding across ground vehicles. So commercial logistics, agriculture, construction, and mining, like any of the heavy duty vehicles. We've got some different initiatives going. Pretty soon, probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks, there'll be an announcement that we added another massive enterprise fleet to the Fleet Defender team. So that'll be you guys, you know who it is. You've seen their logo a million times, so it'll be really fun to announce that when it comes out. So we're continuing to expand there, and we've also started doing some partnerships with a specific local rail company and also with a drone manufacturer. So starting to kind of expand out across not just ground vehicles, but now all connected assets. Because I mean, ultimately, that's the term that we use, right? Connected asset. A lot of people think of a network for their IT network as computers, printers, routers, whatever. But what you don't realize is the data coming off of the vehicles now are going all the way deep into the back office, into the safety teams, the HR teams, the cybersecurity teams. Like these are connected assets that are connected to your network. And while there are like firewalls and protections in place to like protect from somebody getting from a truck into, a back office server, that pathway exists. And remember, like we've never found a single piece of hardware or software that did not have a vulnerability in it.
Wow.
Like it just humans write code and it's flawed. Like it's really difficult. And when you get into these vehicle systems, if you think about how many different ECUs there are in a vehicle, and they're made by different manufacturers, and those manufacturers have multiple different software teams working on different pieces. And oh, by the way, they also bring in like networking code from other companies. We're talking like tens of thousands of humans had their hands on that code that goes into that vehicle. And you cannot do integrations on that scale without introducing vulnerabilities that you don't catch. It happens. It is just the nature of the game. And while there's all these programs with DARPA and like these advanced DoD programs to make these super secure systems and find every bug before it goes to production, like we need to work on that. We need to find those things, but they're not here yet. And when you find, for example, a vulnerability in a vehicle ECU operating system, or like we actually found a few in a specific, very popular Bluetooth stack, when we found that, it was millions of vehicles on the road had that vulnerability. Not just Toyota, not just Audi, not just Freightliner. We're talking millions because they all use the same network stack from the same vendor.
Wow.
So sorry if I got a little off path here,
No,
but I mean, that's our goal, is to secure every single connected asset from deep sea to deep space.
That's amazing. And by the way, Terry, you talked about there at the very beginning of your thought that there was a big announcement coming. What Terry did there was an expert masterclass in what we call in the broadcasting industry, the tease. You'll find out about it, but you don't get to know just yet. And that actually brings me up to my next topic here, the Kill Chain podcast. Now, I know that it's at fleetdefender.com. There's a tab for it there. You can find a bunch of episodes, but we're also evolving the Kill Chain podcast, which you are a co-host of, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, we're evolving it. So we're doing a couple of soft launches on a couple of different mediums. So we brought it back. We now include video. People that are connected with me on LinkedIn or following Fleet Defender on any of the social medias have probably seen some of the videos coming out. And we're testing different things. One of me doing a monologue, which is probably nobody wants to listen to, all the way to, bringing on guests and interviewing like within the vehicle cybersecurity. But like, we're really trying to focus on that cybersecurity piece of the vehicles for the audience that is either, developing the systems, operating the systems, own the systems, like, so the fleets. And so we're testing a lot of different things to see, what do people want to know about? Our team has a ton of knowledge. We have multiple different partners and other companies and people out there that are doing amazing research. So let's get them in. Let's get that knowledge out of their head and get it into the public. That's kind of our view of kind of where we're going with Kill Chain.
It's so cool. Podcasts, that's what I love about this medium, is that it can be anything. I mean, true crime became so popular. Cybersecurity, it's just another arm of the podcasting world. And I'd say if you are interested in listening to what Terry's had to say here on this show, you got to go check out the Kill Chain podcast, whether you're listening to some of the old episodes on the website or hooking up via LinkedIn, because the info that's going to come out of that is just amazing. And I have to touch on what you said about the monologue thing. Look, I've been doing this broadcasting thing for about 15 years of my life. I've got thousands of podcast episodes under my belt. And I tell myself before every monologue that, hey, mom and dad are listening and they want to hear it. That's how you battle with that inner strife that tells you nobody wants to listen. Mom wants to listen, Terry. That's all you got to tell yourself, man.
That's right. That's right. Well, and you know, I'm much more of a conversationalist. I hate just like pitching. You know, I hate talking to slides. I hate doing talks. I would much rather just get in a circle and like, hey, let's just chat and start asking questions. And I think that's where the real value really comes out, because people will ask questions that everyone's thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, it just, the conversation evolves a lot easier.
Yeah, and I imagine that that makes those demos that you get to do out at your facility fun too, because it just start up a conversation, start chatting, and then say, "Hey, check this out. You know, guess what I can do with this?" That just sounds like it's right up your alley, man. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to step.
I was going to say, yeah, there was a fun one. I was out at a conference a couple months ago out in Maryland, and it was an ag focused conference. And I hacked a combine live. So I was able to get in through a wireless interface and take over the RPM of the engine. And so while I was on stage, I was kind of talking about this, and I was like, you know what? Do you just want to see it happen? And of course, the audience is like, yes, you know. So it's like, okay, so walk over to the podium, pull a video up of the combine sitting outside the building running, and they could see my screen and just type a couple of lines, hit it, and boom, there it goes, and the RPM starts jumping all over. And so that's kind of the fun one, like, oh, let's just go out and show you.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's great. Well, listen, Terry, we've taken up quite a bit of your time today. I really appreciate you being here with us. This has been a fantastic interview. One thing we always do here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast is clear out a little bit of space at the end for any final thoughts or anything that we might have missed. Of course, this is wide open here, so anything that you want to talk about is good. Before we let you get to your final thoughts, so you have a second to think about it, I'm going to go to Jason since he's a vet here of this show. Been doing it for a while. Jason, you've been so patient today. I've been kind of giddy about this interview and excited. Haven't really given you much latitude to talk. So anything that I left on the table here before we let Terry go?
Nope, it's just as cool this time as it was the first time, you know, when I got to meet Terry and his team and what they were working on. So echo your thoughts, and appreciate Terry coming to the show and share all of our with all of our Liquid Trucking family and crew, and all the folks that maybe aren't with Liquid Trucking that listen. We would love to get together again sometime. If you're ever doing something local, keep us posted. And yeah, that's all I got for today.
And I got to thank Jason for being here. He is the most gracious honorary co-host that I ever have, because he will sit here and let me just talk the whole time. He doesn't ever reach across the aisle and slap me across the face and say, "Hey, shut up for a minute." So love to have you here, Jason. Always appreciate you joining us and setting us up with these awesome interviews as well. Terry Reinert, CEO of Fleet Defender. Again, thank you so much for your time today. Final thoughts from you. Anything else you want to bring up before we let you go?
You know, honestly, I think the only thing I can say is just thank you to everybody that's out there driving. You know, like it's very, very clear that our national security is tied directly to our ability to provide for the American people. And if we're not putting food on the shelves, if we're not putting gas at the gas station, if we're not, you know, taking care of these basic needs that we have in society, we don't have a society. And it's really interesting because a lot of people who know me, who knew the work that I used to do, and, you know, they're always like, well, why did you leave national security work? And I was like, I didn't. Because Fleet Defender is just taking it down another level, right? So if they can stop our supply chain, they can destroy our country without having to fire a single bullet. And so, you know, thank you to everybody out there who does what you do. Like, it's probably a thankless job. Probably not many people like say thank you as you go by, but, you know, thank you to everybody out there driving, everybody that's operating the fleets, that's moving goods, that's moving fuel, that's taking care of the American people, because ultimately that is the cornerstone of our society. So I think that's my final thoughts is thank you.
Very well said, Terry. And you know what? We love our vets on this podcast. So I want to also say thank you for your service to this great nation and your continued service to this great nation, even if you don't do it with a uniform on anymore. It's very clear to see after this interview how much you guys are doing to try to keep everybody's information safe out there. So thank you so much for joining us today here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having me. This was fun.
See you guys.
Man, I had to loosen my damn hat after that interview because I learned so much from Terry Reinert, CEO of Fleet Defender and serviceman of this great nation, by the way. What a lucky country we are to have guys like Terry on our side, huh? I mean, to get that type of upbringing in cybersecurity, have that much passion for it from a young age where you're taking apart video game machines and using Commodore 64 to write the very first code you've ever written, we are in a good spot, man. There's a reason I said I feel confident in the things that Fleet Defender is doing. Let me tell you something. A lot of that comes from just that guy right there, Terry Reinert. Fantastic interview. Big thanks to him, and hats off to everything that's going on over there at Fleet Defender. I'm sure you're going to hear that name into the future in the trucking industry because cybersecurity is so damn important for every single fleet and the transportation grid itself. I think Fleet Defender has a lot of good things to do, and hopefully in the future they get the chance to do those good things with as many good companies as possible. If you want to go check them out again, remember you can get them over at fleetdefender.com. I did a little research after that interview because I just kind of wanted to know, it's like I told Terry, I'm a little bit paranoid. I'm a little bit scared. Like, what's the threat? And he had those 3 buckets that he talked about, just people that aren't looking to do bad. They're just maybe where they shouldn't be. That one, it kind of equated with me to that quote from Jurassic Park. You guys were too busy thinking about whether or not you could, and you didn't stop to think about whether or not you should. That's that first bucket of people. They're trying to tune their cars, like he said. They're maybe trying to hack a video game so they can cheat a little bit. Not the best people in the world, not always the people you want to be associated with, but largely not the biggest threat. The second one being bad actors, of course, and that one is one of the buckets that I want to talk about here because I actually have a cautionary tale, as it is told by Security Magazine. Last month, Scania, which is a major transport solutions provider, confirmed threat actors use stolen financial credentials to infiltrate its financial systems and access secure insurance documents. Now, the bad actors threatened to spread those documents online if their demands weren't met. Fortunately, the incident was contained without broader disruption. However, this incident does highlight how even behind-the-scenes systems, not just vehicles on the road, are vulnerable. Multi-factor authentication is vital to stop these silent breaches. But just like that, I can think of every trucking fleet out there that doesn't want their insurance documents leaked online. There's a lot that can go wrong with that. I mean, millions and millions and millions of dollars that can go wrong with that for various reasons, and nothing, shady from the fleet side. It's just data. It's information. It's very important. Account numbers, things like that. Like that's a big flipping deal. So good on Scania that they were able to figure that out and contain it. Might I ask if they have spoken to the kind folks over at Fleet Defender with their 24/7 monitoring? Probably could have snuffed that one out. There's that third bucket that Terry was talking about in the interview, which is the nation-state threats. And when you hear nation-state threats, you're like, damn, now we're talking war, basically. And he did use the term cyber war a few different times. This is another little piece of information that I got while trolling the internet from FreightWaves. Between October 2024 and March of 2025, the United States observed a 136% increase in advanced persistent threats targeting freight and logistics. 136% increase, you guys. Alarmingly, more than half of these attacks were traced to APT-29, which is a group linked to Russia, specifically probing transportation systems. These stealthy, fileless malware attacks bypass traditional antivirus, spotlighting the need for AI-powered anomaly detection solutions. And again, Fleet Defender doing a lot of work in this. They've got the new AI that that Terry was talking about. But Terry also mentioned Russian assets, I guess you could say, are studying our transportation industry. They are trying to figure out how to infiltrate it in various ways. And I imagine that almost all of those are going to be ill-intentioned, okay? There's not really much reason, unless you're just really, really excited about starting a trucking fleet over here, for you to be, running this stuff through college courses and across young budding minds and things like that. So that is cause for concern. Cut and dry right there. 136% increase in APTs targeting freight and logistics. More than half of them were traced to APT 29, which is a group linked to Russia. Man, it's kind of one of the reasons I told you I had to loosen my hat a little bit. Like, I am learning so much in today's episode. Had no idea that the threat was as serious as what it is. Moving on here to something I got from Marsh McLennan Agency Northwest. Analysis from a mid-2025 study reveals that 67% of fleet cyber incidents involved data leak and extortion schemes, and 50% stemmed from phishing attacks against public-facing apps and APIs. In one case, a 500 gigabyte data breach crippled a large LTL carrier in 2024, forcing system-wide recovery efforts and leaving them operationally hamstrung. This kind of goes back to what I was asking Terry about. As a user, as just me, like, it's not if, it's when. I'm going to click on something, whether it be on purpose or on accident, that I shouldn't have clicked on, and what are they going to get from me? Who knows? Maybe they're really good and they've got everything that's on my computer. Maybe they're just kind of some dope in a college dorm room somewhere dinking around, and they don't get anything, but they still saw it. It's still there. Well, fleets have to think about this too, and, Terry said it about fleets. It's not when, or it's not if, it's when. And he also said that there's not one bit of code that hasn't been flawed. They've found flaws in every single thing that they've tried to find flaws in, which means it's just flawed. And there are vulnerabilities. And, it's just, I think it actually comes to be a personal responsibility for us just in the world we live in these days. It's not something that you have to think about for your job, specifically something you have to think about for your personal life specifically. It's something that you have to think about all the time for everything that you're involved in. If you click into a phishing scam and they get your passwords, think about how far that goes. Think about the ripples from maybe just, let's say you're not a big password guy and you've got one password that you like to use for everything, and you kind of think that, hey, this password is unguessable. There's nobody that's ever going to figure it out. But then one day some computer does. What would that do to you as a person? How long would it take you? If you're using the same password for everything, man, I got to figure you're on the order of maybe 30 or 40 different things you're using that password for. And that's on the conservative end. It could be a crazy amount of just headache, and also there's money tied up in it. You'll lose money. Fleets can lose money. Everybody can lose money. That's what everybody's going after, right? None of these hackers are finding out a way to get to your deepest, darkest secrets inside of a cloned hard drive from 1996 for anything other than your Bitcoin wallet. They just want money. And, some of them, they deal in data, but guess what? They sell the data and they make money. So keep your passwords safe, man. Change them. Use that two-factor authentication that we talked about. That's really good too. I think that it's just a reminder here. Keep yourself protected, and that will help you keep everything that you're involved in protected as well. And kind of moving on to what I would say the last story I have here for you is phishing Trojans against trucking companies. This one comes from the Hacker News, which, typically we're getting a lot of news from trucking websites. This one is from a cybersecurity website or a hacking website. It says back in 2024, September of 2024, North American transport firms were struck by a targeted phishing campaign distributing NetSupport and LumaStealer malware via compromised email threads, demonstrating how insiders and trusted communications are being weaponized. You could get a text from somebody that you think you know, and what you realize is you didn't happen to check the email address and see that it was, hey, one letter off, and all of a sudden you've just shipped off a bunch of information to somebody that should not have it in any circumstance. So definitely interesting stuff here for sure, something to think about. But as we close this out today, because I am coming up on where I would like to end the episode, I think we've provided plenty of info today. Right now, whether you're in an office or you're in a fleet out on the road, someone is probably probing your systems. And I say that because I think Terry would say that. I think Terry, if I still had him on the line right now, I'd say, hey, if you have systems, is somebody probing them? The answer is yes. It's not if, it's when. Remember that. Searching for a way in. They're always looking. So when credential breaches, stealthy malware, and growing nation-state intrusion tactics combine, it's no longer a question of if, but when. I love that quote so much. So here's what I want you to walk away with, drivers. Every part of your fleet is a potential entry point. That's something really important to remember. Your trucks, your CP systems, your dispatch APIs, they're all targets of these bad actors. And the attackers are evolving to be faster, stealthier, and more automated, using AI and fileless malware to slip past defenses. So tonight, when the show's over and you look at the fleet and ask, what system have I left vulnerable? How can I detect an anomaly today before it becomes the next headline tomorrow? That's something you should ask yourself. Listen, you don't have to be that crazy about it. You can just say, like, hey, have I left any vulnerabilities? Is there anything I left open? Is my Facebook still sitting there wide open? Do I have my phone in my pocket? I didn't leave it in the can at Love's. You know, there's just little things that we can all do to help protect ourselves and help protect the fleet and everybody involved in it. And really cool that we've got guys like guys like Terry out there. And I don't want to forget Jason. He showed up for the interview too. I kind of stepped on him the whole time, but he was there, and I really do appreciate him. But the big shout out today goes to Terry Reinert, once again, CEO of Fleet Defender. It's not a science movie anymore, science fiction movie anymore, you guys. It's totally real. And I really feel like this was just an important interview to have today, because if nothing else, at least you get to shine a light on what you might be dealing with. You know, what's the threat? Where's the threat coming from? Well, the answer is it's all around you, and it's coming from every direction. So it's not the best thought to have as you go down a rabbit hole of existential dread. It's something to be thinking about and always be diligent. I think that's the message to take away here from today. Just be diligent out there. Head on a swivel when you got the wheel in your hands, and when you got that phone in your hands, keep those thumbs on a swivel, my friend. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast. I've been your host, Marcus. Again, big thanks to Terry Reinert, CEO of Fleet Defender, and Jason Eisenman, VP of HR and Safety for Liquid Trucking, for joining me today. I've been your host, Marcus, but I think I already said that, which means that I have talked beyond the amount of words that I have in the 6 inches between my ears. We'll see you next week for another fantastic episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast. See you later. Oh, stay safe. Keep the shiny side up. See, I told you I'd run out of bandwidth.
Thanks for tuning in and being the gold standard of drivers on the road. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and tune in next week for another episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast.
Interested in finding out more about what it takes to bring a podcast like the Liquid Trucking Podcast to your fleet? Bulldog provides tailor-made, top-to-bottom podcast production services. We'll meet your terminal staff, connect with your drivers, and bring you the content you want your drivers to hear. Type bulldog.works into your browser to connect with us and learn more about what we can do for your fleet. That's bulldog.works for podcasts, tenacious recruiting, and more.